and Word, you may be familiar with Simon Hurst's work. Essentially, what we do at EWB is we give you the personalized learning that you need to progress your career into the next level. We're launching a series of webinars covering a variety of topics, and today's is offering 10 tips to organize your Outlook inbox effectively. The next webinars we'll be covering are on Excel and possibly social media marketing in the coming future. But we're not so sure yet, so if you have any ideas, please email them to info@excelwithbusiness.com. And please check our blog at excelwithbusiness.com/blog for articles and free content. Simon Hurst is a chartered accountant and has been involved in computer software for 26 years. He's provided a wide range of training services to professionals at all levels. Please enjoy this webinar. I'll be passing you to Simon now, and if you have any questions during the webinar, don't hesitate to send them to us, the organizers, and we'll field them and get them answered at the end of the webinar. Thanks very much and enjoy your webinar.
Hello, thank you very much for the introduction. As Jonathan said, we're going to be looking at some tips on Outlook email management. Just to remind you that if you wish to send questions and comments via Twitter, the hashtag is EWB webinars. So let's have a look at Outlook. And my inbox. It's not really my inbox. You wouldn't want to see my inbox. We're going to be using Outlook 2013. So this is Outlook 2013, distinguishable by the use of block capitals for the ribbon tab headers. Actually, 2013 is not that different from 2010. The real difference you might notice will depend on how you connect to your email server. I'm connected to a Microsoft Exchange server, as you can see down here, and that gives me pretty much the full range of features in Outlook. Some of the other connections, principally IMAP, if your connection is an IMAP connection, then there are some things that we're going to do in the next 40 minutes or so that won't work quite the same with an IMAP connection. In particular, about halfway through, we look at Outlook flags, and with an Exchange connection, we have a range of different flags we can use, whereas with an IMAP connection, it only supports basically being flagged or not flagged, but we'll see that when we come to it. And we're not really going to be looking at sort of sending and receiving emails, writing emails, sort of assuming that you can do all of that stuff. I'm going to be looking at just managing emails, stopping emails eating into your productivity. So sort of helping emails work for you rather than against you. And I'm going to start off by looking at how you choose to be interrupted by email. So I'm going to go to the File ribbon tab option and down to Options. So this is where all the Outlook options live, and we're looking at Mail, so I'm going to look at the Mail options, and I'm going to look at this section down here, Message Arrival. So this controls how you're alerted when a new message arrives. And it's really up to you to choose how email interrupts you. If you allow it to, email can destroy your productivity, because every time you're in the middle of doing something, you're concentrating, you're getting somewhere, a new email arrives, interrupts you, you feel you have to deal with it, breaks your concentration, and you become increasingly less productive. So it's as well to look at this section of options and set them up in a way that suits you, not in the way that Microsoft might have decided is a good idea. So, for example, you probably don't want a sound to be broadcast every time a new email arrives. So you could turn that off. You can choose whether the mouse pointer changes briefly when an email arrives. You can have something subtle like an envelope icon appear in the taskbar, so that leaves it to you to check the taskbar, see if there's an envelope icon to show that there's a message waiting to be dealt with. Rather more obtrusively, you can have a desktop alert appear when a new email arrives. You can control that, so you'll see here there's a button for the desktop alert settings, and that lets you control how long the desktop alert stays on your screen and how transparent it is, and you can preview the effect you choose. You'll see that I've turned everything off. Now, this isn't because I really don't care about emails and helping people when they send me an email, replying to their emails. It's because I have two screens, and I usually leave one displaying my emails, so if I need to check whether an email has arrived, I can just look at the other screen. I'm not necessarily saying that's a good idea. It works for me. It might not work for other people, but the real message is just remember that you're in control. You don't have to have a loud beep occurring every time an email message arrives. You can choose how to be interrupted, and if you want to, you can make your life even quieter. If you really need to concentrate on something, you've got to get something done, you could consider using your out of office settings. So I've gone back to File, and here we have Automatic Replies out of office. Now, even if you're not out of the office, you can use this to send a reply, and in 2013 you can choose the times that a reply will be sent automatically for you. So if you don't want to just ignore your emails, you don't want to think people or don't want people to think that you're ignoring them for 2 hours, you could set up an automatic reply, an out-of-office type automatic reply, just saying, I'll contact you once I've finished what I'm doing. It will be in a couple of hours' time. And when you're setting up any sort of out-of-office automatic reply, you have two you can set up, one to be used within your own organization and one that's used for emails that arrive from outside of your organization. So having dealt with just how email interrupts us, let's now have a look at the inbox itself and how we can use the inbox more effectively, how we can make it more useful to us. And let's clear some of the clutter. Let's just get that out of the way. So we're just looking at our inbox, and we'll start off by looking at some of the options in the View ribbon. So not surprisingly, the View ribbon includes the options we need to control what we can see in our inbox. And we'll start off with Message Preview. At the moment, I'm just seeing the subject matter of my emails. If I wanted to see a preview of each email, I could choose Message Preview, and you'll see that I can choose the number of lines of each email to preview. So if I choose 2 lines, I can choose whether to make this change just in the folder I'm looking at or in all my mailbox folders. I'll choose just this folder, and you can see that I can then see a couple of lines from each of my emails, so I can scan the content of my email without having to open each one. Let's just turn that back off. The other thing, sorry, again, I should point out that you can change that for either the folder or all mailboxes. The other way of reading emails without opening them is to use the reading pane. So if I click on the reading pane option in the layout section, I can choose to display the reading pane to the right of my list of emails, or underneath my list of emails, I'll choose to the right. And there's various things I can do. So if we just choose a normal email here, you'll see that I can now perform actions in the reading pane as well as just using it to read my email. So as well as reading my email, if I want to reply to it, I can click on reply and I can reply within the reading pane. If I don't want to do that, I can click on pop out to reply as a normal email, or if I decide to do neither, I can discard my reply. Now, if my email, rather than just being an email, is an email with options, voting options maybe, or as here, a meeting invitation, where I have a range of actions I can perform, then once again I can perform those actions within the reading pane. So I don't have to open the email to perform the actions, I can do them directly from within the reading pane. The other thing worth pointing out with the reading pane is once it's displayed, I then have some reading pane options I can use, and some of these are to do with whether the item is marked as read, so I can see that I've dealt with it. So I can choose to mark it as read after it's just been sitting in the reading pane for a given number of seconds. I can mark it as read when I move on to another email. And I've also got this quite interesting option here, single key reading using the spacebar. If I turn that on, that allows me to go through my emails just by using the biggest key on the keyboard, the spacebar. So what it does is, if the email doesn't fit on one screen, as I press the spacebar, it scrolls through my email. When it gets to the bottom of the email, it scrolls directly onto the next email, and so on. So I can scroll down through a long list of emails, reading them as I go, just by pressing the spacebar, not by sort of double clicking to open each one, closing it down, opening the next one, just by using the space bar to go through the email list. Let's close the reading pane. And let's have a look at some other view options, and we'll start off just by looking at sorting and grouping. So this is, you're probably well aware, this is pretty straightforward in Outlook. If we look at our column headings, you'll see that one has an arrow here that shows that currently we've sorted our emails by the date and time that they were received. So the most recent emails are at the top. That's a fairly common way of sorting your emails. You can click on any of the column headings to choose to sort by that column instead. So if I wanted to sort by who the email was from, I can just click on the from column heading, and then my emails are sorted by who they're from. And as you probably will know, if you click again, just changes the order of the sort from ascending to descending. Now, obviously that applies to the columns that I can see, but there are lots more columns available in the Outlook list view. If I right-click on one of my existing column headings, I can choose the field chooser. And the field chooser displays a list of headings that I can include within my screen. It starts off with frequently used fields, but I can choose from a range of other fields, such as all mail fields. So if, for example, I wanted to know when each email had been sent as well as when it had been received, I could look through the list, find the appropriate field, and then I can just drag that field to where I want it to appear in the column heading. You'll see that as you go to each area, little red arrows appear to show you exactly where that's going to be inserted. So here it's going to be inserted between from and received. There's my sent column with all the sent information. I could obviously now use that to sort as well. If I decide I don't want a column, then I can just click, drag it out of the column area. You'll see a black cross appears. When I let go, that's removed from the header area. Alternatively, if I just put it back, I can remove the column by using right click, but probably easier just to drag it off as I did there. So that's the field chooser. Now the other thing you might want to do, as well as sorting your emails, is to group your emails. So at the moment we're just sorting by date, so we've just got a long list of dates. If I choose to group my emails, so if I right click and choose arrange by showing groups, Then when I choose the different sorting options, either here from the column headings or up here in the arrangement group of the View Ribbon tab, then rather than just giving me a long list, it will break them down into sensible categories in effect. So here we have 2 weeks ago, older. If I had any emails from today, it would show today, yesterday. And if I choose something else, like say, for example, from, then it will group by who the emails were from rather than just sorting by who they were from. One little tip is if you want to quickly go and see all the emails from a certain person without searching, if you click on from, then if you press a letter on the keyboard, it will take you to the first item in your list that starts with that letter. So here I've gone to W and it's taken me down to the items grouped for Windows IT Pro. So group by from, press a letter, takes you to a section very, very quickly. Let's have a look at some of the other things we can do. We can do a bit more than just that with this particular topic. So for example, if I right click in the column heading area and choose group by box, then this will show me how I'm grouping as a separate box above my header. And you can group within group. So for example, I could choose to currently grouping by who the emails were from. I could then group, so then I could group by category within from, and I could go even further. I can then add subject, so I'm now grouping by subject within category within from. And if I decide I don't want to do that, I can just either move things around, so just reposition things. So I now categories within subject within from, or I can drag groups completely out of the way, or right click and don't group by this field. So the way your emails are displayed really very much down to you and how you want to see your emails. You can choose the headings here. Let me just put some of those headings that I've removed completely off. Let's just use the field chooser to restore subject, and let's stick categories back over here on the right hand side as well. Obviously I didn't mention it, but should have done. Obviously, if you want to change the width, you can just drag the line between columns to change the width of each column. Now let's just switch to grouping by date, because I'm going to show you a particular method of viewing your emails which you might find useful. Usually with emails, you've got emails that you send, emails that you receive, and they're kept in separate inboxes. So you've got your or folders. You've got your inbox folder, you've got your sent items folder. Now, if you're exchanging emails with somebody, they send you an email, you reply, they reply to your reply, you reply to their reply of your reply, and so on. You build up a conversation, but it's difficult to see that conversation because one half of the conversation is in your inbox and the other half of the conversation is in your sent items folder. One way to make it easier to follow a conversation within Outlook is to choose Show as Conversations. Now I'm just going to go to Sandra's inbox here because I know there's conversations here, and I'm going to choose from the View Ribbon tab, Messages Group, I'm going to choose Show as Conversations. Just like before, when we chose the message preview, we can choose to apply this to all our mailboxes or just this folder. I'm going to choose just this folder. And now it has arranged my emails as conversations. And now you'll see that some of them have arrows. That indicates that they're a conversation. It's not just a single email, it's an exchange of several emails all on the same subject. It uses the subject to work out what is a conversation. And if I click the triangle, you'll see that will expand my conversation to show me the ins and the outs. So we can see here the original email, the reply, the replies to the reply, and so on. So I can follow my way through the email conversation without having to switch backwards and forwards between different folders. To collapse the conversation, you can just click the triangle again, and there's various things you can do with conversations. You can choose how to view them, but one of the things you can do with conversations is to clean up conversations. So what that will do is, quite often people quote emails within their own emails, so you end up in a conversation with the same content being repeated over and over again. And certainly if you've got a limited amount of inbox space, you might not want to do that. So one of the things you can do is to clean up your email conversations, either individually or you can do it for a whole folder. And the rules that are applied when you clean up your conversations are another one of the Outlook options. So if again we go to File Options, and again we go to Mail, and this time we go to just underneath the Message Arrival options we looked at earlier on, and you'll see here we have Conversation Cleanup, and this is how you define how conversations will be cleaned up, what you don't want to be moved. So you might never want an unread message to be moved or deleted, and you can choose where your cleaned up items go. So if you do choose to use conversations, and that cleanup feature would be useful, certainly worth having a look at the detailed conversation cleanup options so you understand how the whole cleanup procedure works. Changing the view to conversations isn't a one-way process. If you do it and decide you much prefer seeing emails as you used to, you can just go back to the view ribbon and turn the feature off again, so back to your normal view of emails. And another thing to bear in mind is that to show items as conversations, you need to be sorting by date. If you're sorting by something like from, you'll see that you don't have access to show as conversations. It's grayed out. Only when you sort by date does it then become available to you. Okay, let's now have a look at search options for emails. This is an area that's changed quite dramatically within Outlook in recent versions. Search used to be quite slow in Outlook. It used to go through all your emails. If you're like me and keep far too many emails, it used to have to go through all your emails to try and find ones that matched what you were searching for. Much quicker now, because what happens is your emails, whether you're sending them or receiving them, they're indexed, so that when you do a search, Outlook's much more able to find items quickly. So if I just start typing in a word, as I type in a word, it's already going through and pulling up emails that match what I've typed. So very quickly it finds what it is I need to look at, looking in the subject line and the body of the email. In fact, what I will do, I'll look at the bigger inbox here rather than Sandra's, because that should give me a few more options, hopefully, so we can see quite a few more emails here. Depending on how you set it up, it will show recent results, and then you can click on more to show more results, or you have an include older results option here to always show a full set of results. You can choose, this is quite an important thing, you can choose where you look. So at the moment, I'm only looking in my current folder. I'm only looking in my inbox. Now, if I wanted to find everything to do with Office, whether I'd received it, sent it, deleted it, whatever, as long as I hadn't permanently deleted it, obviously, I can choose current folder and its subfolders, current mailbox, which will be all the folders within this mailbox. So let's just choose that, and we should find that we see a few more. I could choose all mailboxes, so where I have several mailboxes set up, maybe I've got my main mailbox, my working mailbox, but perhaps I also have an archive mailbox where I put my older emails that I don't want clogging up my system, but I want to be made available, so I've moved them to an archive, separate archive mailbox. I could include that in my search. If I choose all mailboxes, then it will give me an even more complete list of items that match my Office search term. And I can even go beyond email items and choose all Outlook items, when it will match not only emails but calendar items and contacts as well. So a great deal of control over exactly where you search. Let's just choose current mailbox. And let's just get a full list of everything that matches Office. And you can see here it goes back several years. That's relevant because when we click in the search box up here, the Search Tools search ribbon appears. And we've got all sorts of additional options that we can use there, so we can refine our search. So for example, I've got all sorts of years here, so if I was to choose last year, then that should just give me the 2014 items, and not all the ones going further back into the past. So when you're using search, if you click in the search box, you have this ability here to change your location, as we saw earlier, using the drop down, but also to refine your search using a range of other options. Now, if you regularly perform the same search, maybe you need to submit expenses each month, and there are various search terms you use to pull out items from your email folders that help you complete your expenses. Rather than going through it this sort of rather manual way of typing stuff in, refining it and all that sort of stuff, there is a way to keep a search. So you just click a single thing in order to repeat that whole search. So I'm just going to clear the current search. The way you do that is just by clicking the close button. It takes you back to your normal full view. And I'm going to look down here at one of my folders. This is the search folders section. If I click on the triangle, this will expand the search folders to show some of the existing search folders. And if I right click and choose new search folder, you'll see that there are some pre-built options here. Now the idea of a search folder is it's a virtual folder. It's not an actual folder with actual stuff inside. It's a folder that when you click, it will actually show you the results of a search. So it doesn't move anything around, it just shows you the results of a search as a folder, just because it's an easy way to look at it. So you can see here there are some sort of built-in options for creating a new search folder, or you can create your own from scratch. So a very frequently used one is large mail. If you're being pressured to reduce the enormous amount of space your inbox takes up, you can go to large mail, and then for a lot of these things there'll be some additional options. You can click on choose, and you can set the size, so you can say show me all mail greater than 200k, and obviously it's much quicker to reduce the size of your inbox by deleting the biggest messages. So you've created that there then sits there as this virtual search folder. When you want to look at those items, all you have to do, just click on the search folder, and it runs the search for you and shows you the current results. So pretty much any search that you can perform, you can set up as a search folder. So you'd use create a custom search folder, and you can then go through and choose the criteria. So you can set up a pretty advanced search here, or you can base them on the existing ones. For example, categorize mail, show me everything to do with course authoring, and then that creates that for you, and you can very quickly use it to see everything to do with course authoring. So that's the use of search folders to save searches. Now, before we go on to the other stuff, you sort of have to mention spam and junk email when you're talking about managing email and being productive with email, because one of the big challenges is coping with all the rubbish that arrives. Hopefully your corporate system or your individual system will have spam filters that will sort most of that out for you. But if it doesn't, or you don't want to use them for whatever reason, then Outlook has its own set of junk filters. So here on the home ribbon, we have in the delete group, we have junk, which will show us some options for individual emails and our overall junk email options. Alternatively, if you receive an email that you know is junk, you can right click on it and there will be a junk option, and you can say block that sender, so emails from that sender are always transferred to the junk email folder. Or if you know that you always want those emails to make it through, you can choose the opposite, which is never block sender. Or you can never block the sender's domain, so if you know that you never want to block emails from that entire company, you can never block the sender's domain. And then there's some other options down there. Now, obviously, well, perhaps not obviously, but happens to me, occasionally you mean to click block sender and you click never block sender, or vice versa. And if you accidentally block somebody, you need to see their emails. What do you do? Well, you can go to the junk email options, either as we saw up here, or on the right click, junk email options, and this will show you all sorts of useful things. So here you can set the amount of filtering, the level of filtering, from no automatic filtering, so only block senders email is blocked, or you can have a low filter, so only the most obvious is blocked, high, most is blocked, and the balance obviously is that the more you block, the more the likelihood is of accidentally blocking something that isn't junk that you do need to see. So you just have to choose the right balance for you. This is the very highest level, safe list only. Only email where you've specifically said that sender is safe will actually make it through. Now, the other option down here is permanently delete suspected junk mail instead of moving it to the junk email folder. This is probably best avoided. There are certainly some mornings where I desperately wish to permanently delete all suspected junk email. But the problem with that is you never get a second chance. So it might be that everything that has the words "you've won a million" is actually junk. But if you permanently delete it rather than sticking it into the junk email folder, then you don't give yourself the chance of reviewing the junk email folder periodically just to see if some of the emails in that are actually genuine that you need. So unless you're very, very sure, I wouldn't choose the permanently delete option. Now, we started off coming here because I mentioned that you might accidentally block somebody or mark somebody as safe. If you do that, you can see their email in whichever list you've put them in, and if it was a mistake, you can then remove it. So whether you mark them as a safe sender and that was a mistake, or you mark them as a block sender and that was a mistake, you can change that around. So additional methods of dealing with junk apart from any that you've got running at a corporate level. Let's have a look now at a range of ways of managing your email and managing your inbox. And there's all sorts of ideas of how best to manage an inbox. One thought is that your inbox should be basically empty all the time. That you should move as soon as you've dealt with them, you should move all your emails to a different folder or delete them. So the only things that are left in the inbox are stuff that's there waiting to be dealt with. And if you set that up and use it, then that can be a very effective way of managing your inbox. I think the real thing that you need to consider is what you don't want to end up with is a very big inbox full of stuff, and you don't know what stuff you need to deal with, and you don't know what stuff you don't need to deal with. So if you don't delete everything, if you do just keep your inbox as a filing system, it's quite important that you know what's been dealt with and what remains to be dealt with. Lots of emails you can just deal with immediately. You look at your email, you send off the reply, it's dealt with. But some emails, you know, you need to deal with by a certain date in the future, by later on in the afternoon, for example. So one of the things that you can do is to right-click on an email, and under follow-up, we'll look at the follow-up flags in a little bit more detail later, but you can add a reminder, and therefore you can set a specific date and time where Outlook will display in the reminders window a reminder to do something about that email. An alternative way of managing your inbox is to ensure that everything in your inbox has either been dealt with or you flagged it to be dealt with by a certain time. So you know that whatever you see is under control. It's not just a mass of stuff, half of which has been dealt with and half of which hasn't, and you don't know which is which. So if you're going to go for the empty inbox policy, one of the things you're going to need to do is to create folders to put stuff in, assuming you're not going to just delete everything. You're going to want to refer back to emails. So you can do that very easily within Outlook. Here I'm in my inbox. I can right-click in my inbox, choose new folder. I can give that new folder a name, sales or whatever. I've already got sales. Let's call it purchases. Astonishing lateral thinking there. So I've got a folder called purchases, nothing in it at the moment, and very easily, if I want to put anything in that, so I can just drag items, or I can select multiple items and just drag them to that folder, and then they're in the folder. So managing your email with folders is fairly straightforward. Let's now have a look. I mentioned earlier on about using flags. So we'll look at how to use flags as well as using that reminder option. And before I do that, I'm just going to go to the View ribbon tab, and I'm going to display the to-do bar. So the to-do bar, you can include your calendar, people, tasks. I'm going to include tasks. So this will show me my currently overdue tasks. And if there's an email and I know I need to deal with it, if I right-click and go down to follow-up, we've already seen that I can add a specific reminder, but I can also add these flags here, such as today, tomorrow, this week, next week. So if I say today, then you'll see that is then added to the today section of my tasks. It's not in red because it's still today. These are items that are in the past that I haven't dealt with, so they're showing up as needing to be dealt with today, and they're overdue, which is why they're red. If I were to choose tomorrow, for example, then you'll see it then appears in a tomorrow section. And once I've dealt with stuff, I can flag them as clear flag. That removes them from the list there. So I know that stuff in here needs to be dealt with, and the stuff in red is overdue for being dealt with. The other thing you can do, flags are useful, you want to use flags a lot. You'll see here I've got the column for flags displayed. You can set up a quick click. So if you choose, just gone to the wrong place, if you choose set quick click, you can define which of your flag options is going to be the easiest to apply. So if you always want to do something tomorrow, never today, probably good advice, you can choose tomorrow as your quick click, and then you just have to click in the column, and that will set up that item as a tomorrow item. So by turning on the quick click, then you just click in the flag column and it uses that particular flag. And remember, these flags are what you don't get if you use IMAP. Let's move on from flags to categories. There's some similarities between the two. You'll see here we've got a categories column displayed, and we've got lots of categories set up. Outlook comes with a built-in block of categories. They're done by color, and when you use them, when you apply a category, you then get the chance to rename it from being just the name of the color to something more sensible. So if you want to apply a category to something, let's just right click here. We can choose categorize. There's some existing categories that I've set up. We can go to all categories, which enables us to allocate multiple categories. So you don't just have to have a single category for an item. You can have multiple categories for an item. You can choose the color of each category. You can set up control keys to make them easy to apply. And as you can see here, you can create a whole new category from scratch. So you can set up categories to enable you to group your Outlook items, and it's not just emails. Categories also apply to calendar items, tasks, things like that. So categories work throughout Outlook, and they're color coded. Different colors show up in your calendar, as you can see here. Different colors show up in your categories column in email. So categories are very useful. You can then use them to filter. So you can quickly, here we're grouping by category. We could click in the search and filter by category. Oh, don't group and filter at the same time, because it looks as though it's got it wrong. Actually, it's got it right. These items here, they also have budget figures as one of the categories. So if I were to turn off the grouping, you'll see here that we've got just those that were in the category that I chose. Now, what we've done so far has all been manual. We've had to allocate the categories, we've had to put stuff into folders, we've had to run searches. You can make Outlook more automatic than that, and that's where the real-time savings can come in. And one of the ways is to use, excuse me, to use quick steps here. So quick steps, if you're used to Word and Excel macros, then quick steps is sort of something similar. It's a means of performing a whole set of actions with a single click. So there's some pre-built quick steps. So for example, if I knew that I wanted to send a whole batch of emails to a particular folder, I could use the move to folder quick step, choose the folder that I wanted to move them to, and then that would do the deed for me. As you're probably working out, that's probably actually slower than just dragging them in the first place. But what I could do, what might be more sensible, is I could set up a quick click to a quick step to do that all in one go. So I could say that I want a new quick step, that is a move to folder quick step, and I'm going to call it purchase folder. And here it says choose the folder. I choose my purchases folder. I've got another action here. I can mark it as red. I can then add further actions. So I can choose an action, set retention policy maybe, delete it after a month, whatever. So a whole series of actions I could create. That then sits there in my quick steps, and all I have to do is select my emails, click on the option, and it goes through, just reminds me of the retention policy I set up, and does the deed for me, moves it all to my purchases folder. And as you can see, there's a range of different actions and different types of quick step you can create. But quick steps, although they're more automatic, they're not fully automatic. If we want Outlook to be more automatic for us, we can use rules. So we might know that every time an email from a certain person arrives, we automatically want it to go to the purchases folder. So maybe whenever Dave Stiles sends us an email, we want it to go to purchases. So I can right click, and choose rules. And one of the rules I've got here is always move messages from Dave Styles, and I can choose purchases. And when I set that up, that creates a rule. You'll see that that's now gone. Not only is that one gone, but next time an email from Dave Styles arrives, it will be checked against the rule and automatically copied to the purchases folder without me having to do anything at all. Now, rules can be quite sophisticated, so that was just based on an existing email. But if I go to manage rules and alerts, and we can see here the rules, that's the new rule I've just created. If we go to new rule, we can see here that we have some template rules. So there's a range of rules where it will help you set up the rule. Or you can go for a completely blank rule, and I'll just use this to show you just how much control you can have over a rule. So we have a choice between rules on messages as they arrive, rules on messages as they're sent. We'll choose apply rule on messages I receive. And next step, we choose a condition. So there's all sorts of things, as you can see here. Does it have a specific word in it? Is it assigned to a category? Does it have a particular importance? Who is it sent to? So all sorts of things you can check, and you can check all of these. You can check more than one. We'll do something simple. So we'll say, does the subject line contain specific words? Now, where you choose something like that, you'll see these items are shown in blue and underlined. If you click the blue and underlined option, you can then set the criteria for that item. So here we specify one or more words or phrases that we want to be checked. So let's just spell that correctly. One key out. Jackpot. So if it's got jackpot in it, we can add that to the search list. As I said, we can add other things, and you'll see here it then tells you that's the rule you've set up. And we could go and add more criteria. Then we go to the next step where we say, well, what do we want to do with it? If it matches the rule, what should we do with it? So we could maybe play a sound. We can choose the sound it's going to play. So as we're about to win vast amounts of money, we can play the ta-da sound. We can go on to the next step. Oh, sorry, I should have said you can do a whole range of actions, just like you can do a whole range of criteria. On to the next step, exceptions. So you might want the rule to be triggered except if it's marked as important, or except if it's sent only to me. So you can again set up a range of exceptions and detail the exceptions just in the way that we detailed the original criteria. Then the last part, you give the rule a name, and you can choose to run the rule on all messages already in the inbox. So if it was a move rule, if you've decided to move all your emails from Dave Styles to the purchases folder, you could run that on the existing inbox to move all of the messages that are already in there, as well as turning it on so that for new messages that arrive, that rule will automatically move his messages to the purchases folder. So that creates the rule, and it sits there running automatically when emails arrive. Now I'm going to finish by showing you one very important rule. I would guess that most of us at some time in our lives have pressed the send button on an email and immediately wished we hadn't. It might be something very, very innocent, like we've said that we've attached a file and we've forgotten to attach the file. It might be something slightly more devastating. We've sent the message to the wrong person. We've sent it to our girlfriend rather than our wife, or something like that. It might be that somebody's made us really, really angry, and we've sent some email back that we really then thought, oh no, I really shouldn't have said that. So generally, as soon as you press the send button, it's probably too late. You can try and recall the email, but that usually just makes matters worse. So you know, the send button, it's all over. Your career, your life lies in ruins around you. So one rule you can set up is to apply a rule on messages that you send rather than messages that you receive. And this rule might apply to every single email. You might decide that every email you send, you want to delay. So we won't set a condition. It will warn us that it's going to apply to all our messages. And then here, these are the actions we can perform on emails as we send them rather than as we receive them. And one of those is to defer delivery by a number of minutes. So I can say, okay, when I click send, don't send it immediately, defer delivery by 2 minutes. So it sits in my outbox for 2 minutes before it's sent, giving me time to realize I haven't attached the attachment, I've got the to address wrong, I've been a little bit intemperate in my hasty response. You might want to set up an exception, so occasionally you really do want to send an email immediately, so you might want to maybe use a trigger word or something. If you use the word urgent in the subject, then it will not apply the rule. So a range of things you can do there. I won't set up any exceptions. And then you can set up your rule, give it a sensible name. You wouldn't, as it's a sent one, you would only turn it on. And then whenever you send an email, there should be a 2-minute delay. I wouldn't state I've never known it not work, but I wouldn't stake my life on it. Obviously, I think if you just don't send emails to the wrong people, don't reply hastily to emails is probably the best advice, but that's quite a good sort of backstop safeguard. Now, I think a few questions have come in just while the email's been going on. So that's very appropriate. Somebody has asked how you recall an email. There is an option to recall an email. Regrettably, it tends not to work. Well, what you end up with is a message going to the recipient, just saying that somebody's attempted to recall the email, which probably makes it all the more likely that they're going to read it. So, sometimes it might work, but a lot of the time it's just going to make matters worse. But there is the option to recall an email. Somebody else has asked if emails sitting in the deleted folder still eat up memory. Yes, they do. It's only when you permanently delete something that you start freeing up space. Somebody else has asked, can I manage multiple email accounts with Outlook? Yes, absolutely you can. Here I've got several different email accounts set up. You can go to File, Account Settings, and you can create new accounts within Outlook that are all managed within the same profile. You can even set up separate Outlook profiles. Now, let me just have a look. I think there's another couple of questions. Can you create a template in Outlook? Yes, again, the answer to that is yes. If you create an email, then you can use Save As to save that email, and you can save that email as a template where it will go to the templates folder, and then when you create a new email, you can go to the templates folder and use that template in order to create the response or the template for your new email. So you can indeed create templates. Obviously, Excel with Business do have an Outlook course, and that subject is dealt with in some detail in the course. Haven't really got time to go into it here, but you can indeed create a template. And finally, the last question, how do you archive emails? You can do it manually just by selecting them and dragging them to a sort of an archive folder or a separate archive Outlook data file, or each folder has a set of properties. You can right-click the folder, look at properties, and that has an auto-archive setting, where you can set up an auto-archive whereby items will automatically be moved to a folder of your choice or even permanently deleted. So Outlook does support a full set of archives. So we've pretty much used up all of our time. Thank you very much indeed for attending the webinar. I hope there were some things in there that you found useful, and I'll hand back now to Central HQ. Thank you very much.
Thanks everyone for attending that Excel with Business webinar, and thanks Simon for presenting it. That was great. We'll be posting the video on our website in the coming weeks, so if you're signed up to our mailing list, you'll get an update and then just follow the link and you'll be able to watch the video along with any other future webinars that we have. At this point, we unfortunately don't have any other webinars scheduled, but drop by and check our site for updates and you'll see them as they come through. Thanks again for attending that webinar and have a great day everyone. Goodbye.